All right. Good afternoon, everybody. And thank you for joining Charitable Impact for this conversation about the Food Security Fund. This is an initiative based in Toronto that is transforming how communities can tackle school hunger one neighborhood at a time. Just before everybody joined, I was salivating because Chef Robert was talking about what he's been cooking today from his kitchen at the Toronto Event Center. It sounds amazing. Thank you so much, Chef Robert, for joining. Thank you so much, Anick Silencieux. She's the co-founder and executive director of Support Black Charities. And thank you so much, Mr. Tim Fray, restaurateur, business advisor to Support Black Charities. This is a conversation that, frankly, I wish we didn't have to have. It's outrageous to me as a Canadian that 1 in 5 of us live in food insecure homes. And
Mhm.
it's even more outrageous when I've actually recently learned that if you come from a Black community, you're 3.5 times more likely than the average Canadian to experience food insecurity. And especially in Toronto, I know now that more than a third of Black children face food insecurity. And imagine having to go to school when you're hungry. So here today, we're joined by three extraordinary community leaders who said, enough is enough. Let's do something about this. Let's make schools hunger-free zones. No school should have hungry children. I think we can all agree on that. But Anick, let's start off with you. I'd love if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you started the Food Security Fund.
Yes, so first of all, again, my name is Anick Silencieux. I'm the founder and executive director of Support Black Charities. And I've always been a person that's passionate about my community, and I just want to see us do well. We hear the stories out there, and I just want to almost prove people wrong, but also just showcase what we're doing. So one of the mission of Support Black Charities is to elevate the community. And what that means is to listen to the challenges, to learn about the current needs. And we do this through organizations by supporting them, partnering with them. And so food insecurity is one of the social impacts that we're focused on. We do this through the framework of the Sustainable Development Goals, and food insecurity, zero hunger, is the second goal, and that was set up by the UN. So that's kind of my link to food insecurity. So it's already a focus for us for Support Black Charities. And then within the last year and a half, we started hearing on the news, one city is declaring food insecurity, and I had never heard of that before. Complete whole cities declaring, a whole region, neighborhoods declaring food insecurity. And for me, every time I hear something like this, because of the work I do with Support Black Charities, I always try to see, okay, how does this affect the Black community? So then I went into a rabbit hole and saw the numbers. I saw a good research that was done by the University of Toronto, and I couldn't believe the numbers. And I said, "Oh, this needs to be addressed." Didn't really know how, but I know it was definitely on my radar. And then through our conversation, I mean, we, SBC and myself, Support Black Charities, we've had a relationship with Charitable Impact since 2020 in a different capacity. But then we had several conversations when I learned that Charitable Impact was pivoting and doing cost funds. And we were just looking at what can we do a cost fund on for the Black community. And then we said it's timely, it's urgent. Why not do it with food insecurity? And just the idea of what a cost fund is, meaning that it's a collective focus action. And I think this is perfect for what we want to do for the Black community specifically. And it answers, it fulfills the mission of Support Black Charity. Personally, for me, I just want to be able to provide meaningful resources to a problem that people are facing right now. And it's such an urgent situation. And how do we come together and do it in an informed way, the community side, the business side. And so for the last year, we've been working on this. It's exciting. Can't wait for people to really understand what we have as a goal. But this is kind of my connection to the Food Security Fund.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. And I certainly hope that by the end of this webinar, people have some idea about what it is you're doing, why you're doing it, and how they can get involved. And by the way, let me just say that if you're listening and you have questions, I will leave time for questions from the audience. So please just put your questions into the chat and we'll make sure that we get to them. Now, Tim, over to you. It's been a pleasure for me getting to know you. You're an extremely successful entrepreneur, a business person in Canada, but you speak with such passion about this issue. Tell me about your personal connection to this issue of food security.
For sure. Thank you for having me. Yeah, my name is Tim Fray. I am an entrepreneur. I've been in the food sector for probably 4 decades, going on 4 decades now. And I met Anick as a co-founder of 667 Group with Chef Robert. I've met Anick when he was actually working on helping the community in other sectors. And because I've been in the food sector for 4 decades, I was on the side of making lots of food and lots of people happy in hotels and restaurants, banquet halls, and not really addressing the actual issues that we were having in our city, especially a city like Toronto, where we have a lot of waste in food, and then kids that could be using that food and repurposing that food. And Robert brought that to my attention, and we started 667 Group in order to actually tackle that. And then being the business developer for Support Black Charities, it was natural for me to step in now with Anick and bring Robert in to actually address this. That's my connection, is being so many decades inside of the food sector, but then also now working with a charity like Support Black Charities and addressing the food security fund.
And Chef Robert, a similar question to you. I've actually been kind of watching quite a few of your episodes of License to Grill online. I have to say they're very good, I feel very calm when I'm watching your episodes. But like Tim, I mean, you've been extraordinarily successful in your career. And when I first met you, you said that over the last few years, this issue of food security has become quite important to you. Would you mind just sharing a little bit about why? Why does this issue matter so much to you?
Hello, my name is Chef Robert Rainford. And why this matters to me is I've seen a lot of food waste in my career. I've only been in it for 30 years, not as long as Tim. Um, he's still a little bit younger than I am. But anyhow, I digress. For me, seeing waste is just unacceptable. I perform a zero waste in all of the kitchens that I work in, where that means we repurpose things that may be not a first edition, but we can turn it into a second edition and make it just as good. I think that's the purpose that most people, when they see a blemish, they see something wrong with it. And when I see a blemish, I see something else. I see something that I can make better. So making people full and feeding people is kind of, it's what I do. You know, whether it's for the richest person on the planet or the poorest person on the planet, that's what I do. And my passion has become ignited because, you know, again, through Anick and through Tim and us having this trifocal effect where we're all looking at it from different perspectives, but we're always looking at the same thing, which is to feed people. And that's the only thing that I can tell you that I want to do with the rest of my career. I don't have another, 50 years, but whatever I have left, I want to dedicate it to this purpose.
Yeah, thank you, Chef Robert. Anick, tell me a little bit more about how this issue of food insecurity affects the Black community specifically in Toronto. And also, is the Food Security Fund exclusively for the Black community?
To answer your second question first, it is not only for the Black community. It is focused on the Black community, but it's not only for the Black community. What I mean by that is when you know that 45% out of all the children that are affected by food insecurity, 45% are Black, identified as Black. So first of all, it is an issue if you have any children that are affected by food insecurity. This is the last thing we want is children to have to worry about something they don't quite understand. Food, and it has repercussion in so many things, health, education, and so on. Food insecurity, first, we just want to make sure that children are not affected by it. But then understanding that our community is almost half of the kids are being affected, then we have to look at this. By focusing on the Black community, we are putting that number down. But obviously, in the different neighborhoods, there's not only Black children there, but it's a focus of ours just because of who we are, the Support Black Charities, but it's just a problem that we want to just join the fight. We have resources, expertise, and experience, and we want to add our expertise and experience and complement others to be able to join the fight, but understanding that our community is specifically affected by it. And if you can remind me your first question.
I was just talking a little bit about how the Black community is disproportionately affected by this crisis, and I wonder if you could offer any insight as to why.
Yes, and it's just that the Black community has already had, we understand equality issues, systemic issues, but when over the last 5 years, food insecurity is not only a food issue. It's also an income issue. It's also a housing issue, where now families and parents, they have to make those impossible decisions of paying for the fixed expenses before the variable one. And that affects the family, and that affects obviously food. And so it's not just a food issue. It's really a different thing. So for the Black community, housing is already something big, and also income. And I know that when we talked about doing the doing a cost fund, housing was one of the areas that we had identified as how do we work for the community. So when you compound all these effects together, one of the ones that is the easiest to tackle is food. I didn't say easier, I said easiest, just because income inequality, this is a bigger conversation that probably involves municipality, federal government. Housing is being worked on right now, but it's at right now different levels of government and so on. As opposed to food distribution and meals, we can do that. We can do that without the paperwork, without the legislation. We could do that today. And so the way it went, to go back to your question, how it affects the Black community more is there is already an issue, and now you compound the cost of life, income, housing. All of this makes it even more difficult for underserved communities, and specifically the Black community. And I went into rabbit holes many times, and I was shaking my head and saying, how come? What's going on? And then you see they talked about food waste, another area that is huge, millions of dollars. So there's so many opportunities, but for the Black community, it's the compound effect. And I think we have an opportunity to really do something there.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that focus on practical action within a highly complex problem. I have to say, when I've been talking about this just in my own networks, people are shocked about how deep this problem goes, especially in Black communities. And I'm wondering, this is a question for both Tim and for Chef Robert. When you're discussing this in your community, and when I say community, I also mean the restaurant industry and the hospitality industry and the space, is this issue of food security one that really resonates with people? Are people aware? Do people care?
This is what I think, Kevin. We are in a bubble sometimes in the restaurant industry because there's so many fires to put out to run in a restaurant, run in a banquet hall, run in a hotel, that we're in a bubble, and sometimes we forget. I mean, we do hear about it, see it, and then we say we're going to tackle it, but we forget. So we have to be reminded. And doing this food security fund is going to actually put it out there to remind those like us who are privileged in this to understand that food is not a privilege, and that we have to help our underprivileged. You know what I mean? So to your question, yeah. It's talked about, but not enough is being done about it. So we need to do more. We need to join in on this fight, as Anick said, and really push the envelope to do more, to do a lot more, not just a little bit, a lot more. We can when there's $49 billion worth of food waste every year in Canada. Everything from supply chain to just someone not liking the food and throwing out there half a steak, or you know what I mean, or just someone saying we can't serve the rest of these pizza, you overmade pizza, throw them out. I go down the list of how food is getting wasted, even from home, how we are not educating our families to say, you know, you can actually freeze the cheese, or you can actually do this and that so it doesn't rot and then throw out. There's ways of actually saving your food to make sure you have enough food for the next day. So there's a lot more education that needs to be done. So we are not talking enough about it. And this is why, with the food security, which Anick will talk about a little bit later, is we have those three pillars and what we're going to focus on with the distribution, you know, the actual pipeline, and then the education.
You know what? Tim did a great job. I suggest that it's the educational part that we really are going to emphasize on, and giving people that opportunity to learn. And as a teacher and as an educator, these are the things that I do on a normal basis. So that's the only thing that I can add to this whole conversation, is that it's going to be an educational piece, and we're going to focus specifically on making sure that we get people food that need that food.
Well, I can certainly say that whenever I've been speaking with the three of you, I've been informed, educated, and inspired. And so that's why I'm so excited to get this fund out there so that other people can share in my own experience. So, Tim, you started talking about solutions, and let's jump right into that. So we know this is a major issue. What is the vision of the Food Security Fund, and how is this unique? And actually, maybe Anick, if I could start with you.
So the vision of the Food Security Fund, it's a simple but powerful one. We are aiming to create a scalable, community-led food hub that will feed Black families with dignity, give them access and sustainability. That is really the vision of it. Now, there's all the different parts, what we mentioned a bit, the distribution part, the education part, and the pipeline. Distribution is really at the heart of it. It's about putting food in people's mouth. So the distribution, or giving them access to food as well. That's the infrastructure that we're building to be able to, for distribution, meal prep, and all of this. Education, like they both spoke about, is why not do your own food? Why not grow your own food, or save more of the food that we would throw out? That's something that it's not only people that are food insecure, but anybody could learn, because it can help you save money at the end of the day. And then the pipeline is, we know that there are cracks in the pipeline. And just when Tim said about the surplus that is thrown out, that's a crack in the pipeline. That's a gap in the pipeline. And to be able to put all of this together to create a sustainable but scalable model, I think that's our vision. And within that, I think, you know, I've said it a couple of times, it's, we want to create a Black food central hub, kind of groundbreaking in Canada and Black-led as well, to be able to support the different community centers, the different housing complex, the different neighborhoods that really need either the education, a pipeline, or the distribution. So how does it make it different? We are looking beyond the immediate emergency relief, beyond the Band-Aid solution. We're looking at everything, and the sustainability is going to be key. The education, again, key. I mean, I won't go into what I specifically want to learn. I want to grow cucumbers because I love cucumbers, but it's just this is important for everybody, and this is a way that people can save and really address food insecurity and get more food, keep more food at home. So that's kind of the unique part, and also working with people that are already doing this work. That's really important. We do have a plan for the to be able to have a food security fund. You need a plan that goes with it, an action plan that's activated by the fund. But at every level, we want to proactively work with organizations, individuals that are already doing the work and need for us to complement, but to help scale. I think that's really, really important, because there's a lot of people doing amazing work, and we can definitely complement and work together to be able to accomplish our goals.
I have to say that is one of the most unique things from my lens about my conversations with you, is that you're taking the existing efforts of so many, not only charities, but governments, school boards, community centers, you know, parent-teacher committees, and you're saying, let's all play on the same team here. Let's get behind a unified strategy. That seems very exciting from a community building perspective, let alone a programming perspective.
Absolutely.
So, Tim, you bring to this a very, very critical private sector lens. And I love how you always talk about food distribution as a system, but tell me a little bit more about the pillars that you mentioned before. Let's dig into that a little bit. So let's get into the plan from a private sector lens. How do we tackle this as a food security system?
So supply chain in our community is nil. I can say that because I work in the supply chain for a major company, multiple ones. If I say them, Chef would know them. I guess I could say them. Cisco, Gordon Food Service, A1 Cash and Carry, all the broadline distributors. I worked in that field for years. So working with them, they have a great supply chain. You know what I mean, from start to finish, from whether it's fruits and vegetables coming from down in Arizona, coming up to Canada, and they're distributed across Canada. They have a place to land it. They got a place to actually monitor it, make sure that the food is safe to get out to the different end users. So they have that in place. But when we look into our community, we don't have that. If something was to stop today, you know what I mean? We couldn't go to our own place to say, how can you help us? Because we already know that we're underserved. So we want to create that hub. We're not doing anything new. We're just doing something for ourselves. We want to create that hub that actually will make, as Anick said, our community feel dignity where they can go to, and it's addressing their issues. You know what I mean? Whether it's meal plans, meals that they know, that they love, they're coming from their country, or we could supply the different raw foods that they like and they love, and to use it. We can actually create vendor deals and bring in vendors to make sure that we have enough supply and contracts for 6 months, 12 months, 24 months, knowing that food's going to be coming there, sustainable. We're always going to have that pipeline, but those contracts are not there. So that's what we're creating. We've been in that field. The rest of our team and our company has been in there. We got over 120 to 150 plus years, combined years of working in this industry, that we could take those years of experience and make sure that this plan works. So we're not trying to create something new. We are in it right now, working it today, yesterday, you know what I mean, years ago. So that's what we're bringing to the table, those pillars of distribution, meal plan preparation, sustainability, having pipelines of food coming in to stay there, that we can recreate, have zero waste by taking certain foods. Might cut off, 100 pounds of romaines, but what are we doing with the ends of those? Can we do something different with those? We might do, I don't know, 50 pounds of pineapples, but can we take the skin now and make something out of those? And Chef is the best at that. You know what I mean? So we want to make sure we could take all the food pipeline stuff that's coming in, we can store it properly, we can reuse it, use every bit of it, and then we can educate those who we can to actually join in on the fight and participate. So those are the three things we're going to do is have the distribution place that people can come in and be proud of. Then we want to make sure we have the pipeline, the contracts to make sure food's always coming in. And then we want to educate.
That's another very unique part of this fund from my perspective, is this ability to include the private sector in the solution, so that when we're talking about community as a word, that word is suddenly an expanding circle. It's not just the schools and the parents and the community centers, it's the entire restaurant industry potentially that could play a role in this. And that's really fascinating. I know, Chef Robert, you're coming to us right now from the Toronto Event Center, from a busy kitchen. And I know that your passion is producing incredible high quality food for people. But as we spoke a little bit about when we first met, there's this dichotomy where you're making this beautiful food for the people who can afford it. But how do we make sure that the people who can't pay for that meal also have access to high quality food? Do you have any thoughts about how that restaurant industry can sync up with communities to ensure that, especially in schools, that there is no hunger?
There's things that are in place, I believe, not just in our sector, but there is a sort of a repurposing of meals that don't go out to guests, that can be repurposed, that are sent away. There's a lot of companies right now, and maybe we should be talking about this as a group as well, where there's an app where somebody can come and get that from you. Again, I live in a totally different technological day. I'm a Luddite. I like pieces of paper and a pen. But there's always a place for food, in my opinion, that's not bad, that should be repurposed and should be sent out to people who need it, that are in need. So all we need to do is identify the people who are in need and get that food to them. That source is definitely an Anick and a Tim scenario for sure, 100%. But from my perspective as a chef, and I'll just use a small example. You have a whole pepper. You cut the top off, you cut the bottom off, you deseed it. Do you throw that in the garbage? Or do you now take that, maybe put it in the oven and dehydrate it for just 12 hours, not even overnight? And now you've made your own paprika. How many people use paprika in foods around the world? It's not just indicative of something that's a Toronto-centric or North American-centric. It's worldwide. So there's so many things that people can do, and that educational perspective that I will bring to the table will allow people to say, you know what, I can make this stuff and make it doable. I think what I've offered to most of Canadians and the people that have seen me on television is it's doable. If I can do it, you can do it. And that's the perspective that I give to anyone who's ever spoken to me, is that you can do it too. That's my 2 cents on that.
And people need to feel optimism, right? That these problems, and when we talk about big statistics, like more than a third of kids coming from food insecure households, people need a dose of optimism. And that's what I love, Chef Robert, from what you just said, is like, we can do this. This is a problem that we can solve. We do not have to have hungry kids in schools. Let's fix it, right? So, Anick, you're joined by two of your expert advisors right now, but I know there's a large team of people behind the Food Security Fund. Tell me a little bit about the incredible groundwork that you've done to assemble a really inspiring group of people to make the decisions about how donations to this fund are actually spent to create impact.
Yes, and that it's so important to the work that we're doing. To come with a group and everybody brings what the advisory council gives me as the CODS leader. It gives me access to expert advice from different angles. So for us, we have chefs, we have business leaders, we have community leaders, we have people that have experience in the food industry as entrepreneurs or in the food systems. And that's very, very important. I think another thing that's unique to our plan is that we bring the community aspect, we bring the experience in the community work, but also the knowledge of business systems. And the two together can allow us to really identify the gaps and the opportunities, look for the opportunities that we can take. So the group is providing an oversight for me specifically as the cause leader, but for the action plan that we're putting together, but giving us that specific expertise that we need. So that's what the group gives. Like I said, chef from the business side, from the food systems, the business side, and the community side. I'm well surrounded to tackle every conversation and aspects of the food cause. And we've spoken obviously with all of them, and we're still in communication. But for me, that gives me confidence that if I need something, if I want to make a link somewhere, I have access to advisors that have lived experience that can help me answer questions, that can help us continue to work on the action plan because about the execution. So it's really important to have this too. And then if I go into the partners, we talked about the advisory council, but this food cause, this food security fund is led by Support Black Charities, but it is powered by Charitable Impact because of the platform that you provide for donors to be able to give that tax receipt. I know that's really, really important, but also executed by 66-7 Group. So you've had already the pleasure of learning, of understanding the breadth of experience that Tim and Chef Robert are bringing to the table, that knowledge of not only business, but food systems. And by not only the partners and all the advisory councils, advisory council members, it's solid experience. Like Tim said, probably more than 150 years now when you put everybody together. But it's it's well-rounded, and I feel confident that we can tackle every question and every issue that might arise, because we have somebody that has expertise, experience, and lived experience as well in a situation.
And this is a problem, of course, that stretches across Canada for virtually every community. But tell me a little bit about how you're starting off. And I guess I should have mentioned at the outset that this is kind of the beginning. Although you've assembled this great team, we haven't started the work in earnest yet, right? And so tell me a little bit about where this will start, and paint us, if you could, paint us a little picture about what that community looks like and who's going to be involved in the specific community.
So we have a four-step process. The first one is we need infrastructure. Like Tim mentioned, right now, the community, we don't have a storage place. If somebody wants to give us 40 pounds of potatoes, as a community, speaking to different people that are already doing this work, this is a pain point right now. So that's how we can complement what's already being doing, is having that central storage location infrastructure. So we're looking to build the infrastructure with a commissary kitchen, food trucks, food delivery trucks as well, and kind of the storage place. So we kind of need to have this first. We can start by having some, and you can correct me or tell me, Tim, again, remind me, start with some food trucks with full kitchens, because just with this, we can kind of extend a kitchen of the groups. So we need to have the infrastructure, but we also need, like I said, the vision is to have a scalable, community-led program structure. So we need to have a proven system. So we've identified one community center that we want to work with in the GTA, and we want to be able to create a framework around that community center. Why community centers? They already have the outreach of the community. Obviously, we'll identify the communities that are predominantly Black, that are most affected by food insecurity. But we need to have a proven model that we can kind of test and make sure that the pipeline, the education, and all of this is working. And then once we have a proven model, we want to identify other areas where there's a greater need for food insecurity, and we want to do this through community reports. Community reports is kind of a surveying different neighborhoods and understanding what is the issue at the different areas, and being able to customize a little bit the help that we have, but we'll already have a central place that can serve that community. So first, the infrastructure. Second, the pilot. Third, identify the community that we'll be going to. And it's important to have a baseline. We want to have a baseline so we can kind of evaluate ourselves every step of the way. 6 months down the line, if you redo the survey, has it changed? Has it improved? What's not working? And then the last part is to scale. So you want to start maybe with three, trying to remember the numbers that we put down, but I think we said identify 10 communities and work with three at the end of the period that we said that we are fundraising for. This would be a great start to prove our model, but we need a proven model, and we need a data-driven model that can let us know if what we're doing is good. So the idea is to have the community side and the business side working together to be able to make this sustainable. So it starts with infrastructure, a pilot, community reports to see who we're working with, and then we scale beyond the GTA, and then we take this program on the road across Canada. That's kind of the model we're looking for, a scalable model.
And Tim, I'm guessing that kind of language resonates from your experience as an entrepreneur, that you're going to need to have metrics and a scalable model and a minimum value proposition. So can you talk a little bit from your perspective about what success looks like, maybe 3 to 5 years from now? What would it mean? And also, Tim, before that, just I want to pause on that point about the community being an integral part of the model and not a passive recipient of the model. Now, I bring this up because, Tim, you've talked to me about this before, and with a degree of passion, which I appreciated, that it's not like the community is just going to sit back and wait for things to happen. That the basis of this model is that the community is in it. creating the model, guiding the model. Could you just dig a little bit more into that element of the business plan and then talk about what success looks like?
Yeah, sure. So I look at it from the lens of a businessman. So, and this is where I come to the table with Anick, where everything I talk to her about is about corporations and business. And she has actually brought me into the organizational part, which is the community part. So whenever we talk about community, I still got to look at it as a business in order for us to do the three things that any business does with any kind of product or service. I mean, we innovate, right? We innovate, we plan it, we get the plan put into place. And once we have that going, then we bring it to market, the second thing. Now, after we bring it to market, make sure it's proven, and then we scale it. You can take any kind of widget or whatever product or service, and then you can scale a business like that before you get an IPO. So that's the exact same thing with the Food Security Fund. We want to bring it to people that are already doing the work. So the community centers are organizations that are already doing the work. All we're doing is adding on. For instance, an example, Malton Youth Hub is doing around 250 kids a day that they're feeding, which I love that. And it's in a city that has been identified as crisis, which is Mississauga. So they're doing 250 kids a day, that one space. So we want to bring, as Anick said, a food truck that already has a kitchen to extend their kitchen, so we could probably add on maybe another 150 a day food to what they're doing. And then now all of a sudden now we're at 500 kids a day that we're feeding by adding on a mobile kitchen to their already existing kitchen and help them with that. So that's the model where we could actually go in there, make sure we could get enough pipeline food coming in and storage, do the meal plan with them, and then see if we can scale it up pretty fast. So the model of being a business person is bringing what we already know that works to a community and making sure we execute it in the community when it comes to this plan, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? So that's success for me, is really the process being in place. And once the process is in place, you can scale that. And that's a good thing about being in business that I love, is I could take a widget. Like I said, after being at university, I remember back in the day in the 80s, they always talked about the widget and how we could take that widget and make whatever out of it. This is the same thing. This whole food security fund program that we have is a widget for me. Even though we're joining the fight, it's not new. We're joining the fight. We could make it work pretty fast and scale out pretty fast.
Again, love the optimism. And Chef Robert, if you're having conversations with your colleagues in the restaurant industry or with other people in the hospitality industry, what would you say if they said, well, what is it about, why are you supporting this food security fund? Why are you putting your name behind this? And what should I do, Chef Robert? What would you say in response to that?
I would say that this is something that every single person who calls themselves a human wants to do and should do. It's not about just our community, because we've seen on a global scale what hunger does. And if we can just in some small way start chipping away at that. And I think that's what the three of us have come up with, is that we're just going to start chipping away at this, and we're going to break down the stigma, and we're going to make sure that people are aware that you need to be involved. You need to be lending your name to food insecurity and turn it into food security. That's the whole mission statement here, because if someone's going hungry, what have you done today? This is not some faraway land we're talking about. We're not talking about abstract qualities here. We're talking about something strictly tangible, that I put my name behind something that I believe in 1000%. I can't imagine going through the rest of my life not trying to feed people, not just through nourishment, but through knowledge. And between all of us, and I'm telling you, I got two people that are way smarter than me. And you can only hope in life that you attach yourself to people who are smarter than you, that want to build you up just as much as you want to build them up. And we have what I consider a great partnership here, that I know that we are going to feed some people on so many levels. And I'm so happy with this. I know I'm stuttering right now because I can feel the emotion welling up in me, because this is something we need to do. I need to do this.
Well, and thank you for sharing that passion, and also for the invitation for everyone else to get involved. And I think that's such a critical part of this initiative. Is, again, it's not a closed loop. This is an open invitation for people to get involved in this movement. So, Anick, last question on my side before I'll turn it over to some questions. But for anybody watching right now, what's one thing that they can do to get involved right now and join this movement?
First thing is start where you are. Start with what you have. If you have funds, great. If you have time, great. If you have a skill, great. If you have access, great. If you have resources, great. It's going to take all of this. So obviously, a food security fund, it's a fundraising vehicle. So it's a fundraising vehicle to activate our plan because we do have a plan now, but it's going to take sometimes equipment. It's a storage facility. I'm just putting it out there. But it's just sharing resources is very valuable. I've learned in the nonprofit sector and community work that sometimes sharing resources is as valuable as money, but we still need funds to be able to activate the plan. There's a lot of administration, some foundation pieces there, but start where you are and then educate yourself on food insecurity. Because you might see some things around you that you've never seen before that you can do. And just like Chef said, maybe now you can do your own paprika because you learned how to do it. He just gave us the blueprint on how to do it. So it's educate yourself on food insecurity, be an advocate for what's going on, and everybody can start where they are. And it's going to take different people at different steps. We have a plan, but we're going to need people at different areas to be able to execute our plan. So this is what I would say. Start with where you are and what you can share with different people. Absolutely.
Thank you. Tim, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I would say go to food security fund.ca and educate what we're trying to do. It's not new. We're joining the fight across Canada. We're starting with the GTA, but we're joining the fight. There's 3 areas in the GTA now that have been identified as food crisis. That's Toronto, Mississauga, and Kingston, Ontario. So, but we know that there's still places across Canada, Montreal, whether it's Halifax or Vancouver, that needs help also. But we are starting here to actually make sure that this works and it works well and it's sustainable and scalable. So go on to foodsecurityfund.ca and educate what we're trying to do. Educate yourself and don't just listen to us. Go and read and see what we're trying to do and then help. Then join.
Thank you so much, Tim. I know that this is also, I should mention, that's a Government of Canada priority as of last year, I believe, as well, that they've announced a very large program for school feeding. And I think that this could be such an important contribution because I know that some of the early skepticism about that national plan is a lack of community engagement and ability to roll out and a lack of collaboration with the private sector. All the things that you're working on with this model. So let me ask a few questions that we've got in from people participating. The first is, how do you keep donors connected to the outcomes and the progress of the Food Security Fund? Maybe Anick, I'll start with you on that one.
One thing I've learned over the last year in terms of community work, showing your impact and your outcomes is instrumental to be able to show donors where their funds are going, where their contribution is building, and to take them along the way. To pull out the curtain and let them see what we're working on. So we definitely have ideas about what we want to do in that aspect, but it's to give consistent feedback or evaluating ourselves, staying accountable, and share these results with donors or any stakeholders involved. I believe that the impact should be quantifiable, visible, and trackable over time. And so we're going to be using those same type of methodologies for the food cause. And we've actually, when on the website, it does show what we're going to be tracking some of the metrics. There's also other ideas that we have, but it's important for the donor to understand where the funds are being spent, how they're being spent, and to show them some type of tangible, visible way that their contribution has helped us with this. So it's at the forefront of what we're doing. Absolutely.
I wonder, Chef Robert, do you think if anybody's watching License to Grill, they might end up learning a little bit more about this down the road too?
I think they definitely would learn a lot. Again, that's something I did a long time ago. But in terms of where we are right now today, and I just have these little containers that basically, and I know you can't see everything, but if you dehydrate and you grind, okay, spice grinder, or if you have a pestle and mortar, and you just give it a little mull, now you can start seasoning because we are not a monolith. Okay, so Tim and Anick, and we're all from different places. So we're going to be feeding people from all over the place. So we can't just say it's going to be West Indian or Jamaican food or Trinidadian food. We've got to make food that all of our constituents are going to enjoy eating. There's something that I've said from the beginning of my career. I never want to hear the word VIP. It upsets me to no end because if there's a very important person and I have to treat them differently than I treat the person with the least amount of money in their pocket, then there's something wrong with me as a chef. So I care about from the beginning to the middle to the end. And if I can help any of those people along the path, just by my experience, from my knowledge, that's all I can ever do. Our time is very valuable, all of us. And the fact that we want to give our time to this really says so much. It's deafening how much we are giving towards feeding people and making sure that this security becomes something for everyone. And again, I know, guys, as a chef, I'm so passionate about food and not wasting. But what I care about the most is just making sure that people understand the nooks and crannies of all food. And I can help with that. I know that my knowledge and I know Tim's knowledge, we can definitely make sure that people know what to do once they get what we're giving them.
Your passion's infectious. I can feel, I'm sure if I ate one of your meals, I would feel that passion through the food.
Thank you.
Tim, do you want to add to that, or should I move on to the next question?
Oh, no, you know what? He said it best. And look, we both have that passion. I know Anick does too. But I feel that in a small way, I feel I let down my community when it comes. I talk about community of just human beings. You know what I mean? Just being a human. That we did so much in trying to reach a certain level in the restaurant community. I worked in a 5 diamond restaurant. I'm not sure anyone understands the different levels, but it's amazing how you try to reach a certain pinnacle, then you realize food is not a privilege. You know what I mean? It's those kids that can afford the certain food that we're working and supplying people, or giving them a wine that we just flown from a certain part of the world for $10,000. It's like, wait a minute here, this is not privileged food. We need it, all of us. So the passion is there, like Chef said. I have that same passion. I want to feed, make sure that we could take what we've learned over the decades and make sure we actually come to the table and do our part before we leave this earth.
Thank you.
Amen.
Beautifully said. I have time for one more question here. How do you identify and prioritize the needs of different neighborhoods or groups within the Toronto diverse communities that benefit from them?
I think, Anick, you could touch on this, but I just want to say, that Anick and I have identified that we need data, and data is not more questions just to have it to put into a book, right? It's data to say who needs it the most and what community. So, Anick, you could touch on that.
Yes, again, I'm waving the flag of impact measurement because that's been my world. And what I understand is you need a baseline, you need data, but you need data at the beginning. You need a data at the beginning to understand the progress, not only for your integrity and accountability of the program, but also to make sure that you're really addressing the needs of the specific area where you're in. So the community reports that we're looking to do, and we, through different conversation, I learned that other people are doing same type of reports, and this is an opportunity for us to work together. So we've identified predominantly Black neighborhoods in the GTA, and kind of at the intersection of also some of the poorest neighborhood in the GTA as well. And we're going to go out, survey the different criteria of food insecurity that we're going to survey and understand what is going on in each community. Based on that, we'll have obviously a point system of a way to be able to identify this community needs this. At this point, this community needs the help most because of such children, seniors. We'll see based on the needs, but having a way to a baseline to be able to evaluate all the communities with the same criteria, it's going to allow us to have a better view and being able to prioritize the different needs of the community and go to the one that needs it the most. Yes.
Fantastic, thank you. And we received also one comment, but not a question. And the comment was, to all of you, congratulations. The ripple effect of what you are creating today is infinite. I'm excited to hear more about it and to contribute to the plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm going to now just turn to some final comments. This has been an amazingly rich conversation for me personally, but I'd like to hear whatever I might have missed that you would really like to communicate before we sign off. And Chef Robert, can I start with you? What are your final thoughts for anybody listening today?
What I hope people have gathered and ascertained from all of this conversation is that you have not just 3 caring individuals, you have people who really have made it their life's mission. Tim and I, we've said it 1,000 times that, we want to make sure that we leave an impact here before we go, because we've been in this industry for so long and we've cared for everything else and everyone else. But here's our community. Here are things that are tangible that we can now do. And it's here. I can almost touch it. And we have been doing this base work. And Anick, thank you so much for just being who you are.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to be emotional, but you guys are doing a great job. And I thank you all. I'm sorry.
Thanks, Chef. No worries, Chef.
Thank you. We appreciate it. And I feel we're immensely lucky to have you with this passion on the team. That's what it needs at the end of the day. So I appreciate it. I heard you. Thank you. Thank you, Chef Rob. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
I know what you're going through, Chef. And before we, and this is not about me and Chef and 667 Group, but there's a reason why we started 667 Group before this. We were trying to feed it forward. I said it, Chef. I'm going to say it. we were trying to feed it forward. There's another group that we were working with. Same thing, who travel across the world. And we realized we had to actually do something here. But that's been our goal is to, food is not a privilege. It really is not a privilege. And when you can see a next door neighbor or someone who gets out and they're doing 2 or 3 jobs and they come home and they can't even pay their light bill, so they have to decide, do I pay my light bill or do I go get some food for my kids? And they have to go and make a decision to keep the light on so the kids can feel normal, but yet have nothing in the fridge. That's just wrong. And when you realize that at our age now, we are passionate about this. So this is not something that we're just trying to do. We're doing this. Come high water, we're doing this. This is it. This is a start of something. Kevin, I'm glad that the Cause Fund by Charitable Impact is a part of this, empowering this. But we are here now, and we're going to make sure it works. We're here to make it work, to make sure we can feed our kids today.
Amen, bro.
Yeah, and for me, it's kind of all coming together again. Why I started Support Black Charities is I wanted to increase the visibility. And the tagline for Support Black Charities is elevate the community. And it answers to this. This is timely, it's urgent. A lot more people are being affected at different areas. And so I feel like we have the right group at the right time to be able to do something. And we've had so many conversations over the last 2 weeks, and I'm just saying that we want to work with people. Having partnerships is the name of the game, sharing resources. So let's have this conversation. I'm hoping to have the biggest voice so people can see it from far and want to come and see, oh, this is what they're doing. You can start where you are. Everybody has something to give. I strongly believe that, whether it's your time, your skills, or funds, obviously. But the three of us, are very passionate about what we do. We give our time for it. And I know that from Charitable Impact, the resources that you've put behind to be able to create, something meaningful and collective focus impact. I can't wait. I'd like to blink my eyes and be 3 years down the road and see where we are. But we have to go through the process, and I'm okay with it. I'm learning things. I learn about doing paprika again. That's gonna be the highlight of the day. But I'm ready, and I feel like a lot of the things that I've learned have brought me to a point where I can use the platform to do so much and leverage my community on my community work with the business acumen of these two gentlemen. So, and the rest of the advisory council. I cannot stress that enough. They're the group that we have. I'm excited to continue working with them. So let's get back here in 3 years, and see what now we have something to talk about with our impact. So yes, I'm excited. I'm excited.
Thank you so much, Anick, Tim, Robert. I think we learned today that food is not a privilege, but working with you is. And so
Thank you.
Charitable Impact is absolutely thrilled to support, this incredible initiative. Your energy is absolutely infectious. And I do believe that together we can make schools a hungry-free zone. We can achieve this vision.
Yes.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Everybody listening, please go to foodsecurityfund.ca and learn more about this incredible work. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.